Alright, everyone, settle down. Those who are still here. Lastly, we would like to pass the final mic to our last presenter today.
Let us recall one of our friends' presentation last week, where he talked something about the Sungai Kim Kim, where chemical waste were disposed in the river, and it caused a number of schools to be shut down because the students were inhaling toxic fumes from the river. What caught my attention in this presentation is that the two main components which are involved in the chemical waste disposal, namely as benzene and methane. And in my knowledge, I know that these two components or substances are highly volatile. I bet all of you know what volatile means, right? It means that it easily vaporizes or changes state from one state to another. So it leads me to conduct further and extend research. What causes these students to experience the negative impacts of these chemical substances, and how can it affect one's health? So, ladies and gentlemen, before I proceed to my presentation, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Dayang or Azizah, and I am from Group C, PCS, and my topic today would be about chemical exposure, the pathways and symptoms. Good morning, I bid to Madam Khairudin, my fellow colleagues, and my fellow organizing committees. So without further ado, let us look into the pathways of chemical exposure, which I will be talking about for today. In general, there are four main pathways of chemical exposure. They are inhalation, skin contact, injection, and injection. However, for today, I will only focus on the top three points, which are inhalation, skin contact, and injection. So, moving on to my first point, which is inhalation. There is only one particular content that I would like to highlight to all of you that I think it is important for me to share with all of you, which are the forms of air which we could possibly breathe in. And they are vapors, mist, and light particles. So, for briefly introducing what are the difference or properties of these three inhalants, we call it. Vapors are actually something which is produced from simple evaporation process, from chemical substances such as the alcohols. Meanwhile, in some instances, some industries also produce tiny liquid droplets, which we call as mist. And lastly are the light particles, where it consists of fume, dust, and smoke. Dust could generally be heavier than fumes and smoke. So that being said, they would eventually settle down to the ground, while the remaining two, fume and smoke, could remain airborne. So that's the brief description of these three things that I would like to share. So what happens if we inhale these particles into our body? Well, actually, honestly, we cannot tell the exact effects of the chemical substances that we inhale, and it is because of different chemicals have different level of toxicity. In other words, they can cause or trigger different kind of reaction in our body. However, on an instant, if we inhale a toxic chemical, the most instant effect that we might experience is, of course, drowsiness, and to more severe case, it could be a blurred vision, shortness of breath, rapid breathing, or if it involves a highly toxic substance in an abundant amount, such as the sodium cyanide case, it could lead to death on an instant. Moving on to my second point, which is exposure through skin contact. In this case, chemicals could enter our body only with the aid of liquid. So most of the chemicals entering our body are in liquid form, are liquid chemicals, I mean. And should the chemicals present in another form other than liquid, such as solid or gas, there has to be a presence of moisture, because moisture allows these particles to dissolve on the surface of our skin and eventually enter into the inner side of our skin. Aside from moisture, there is also other factor which would enhance the exposure rate into our body, which are open cuts or wounds. And these open cuts or wounds provide a passage for a chemical to easily penetrate into our skin. And believe it or not, if I say, hairy area of your body could also be one of the factors which contribute to you being more prone to chemical exposure. And hairy area, I would like to focus on maybe the forearm or those with the facial hair. They are actually more prone to chemical penetrating into their skin. So you might be extra wary if you have some. And these are some of the effects when chemical substances is in contact to your skin. I'm sorry that I did not warn you for the graphic content. I hope you all can accept it. Yeah, these are some of the things. They are hives, skin dryness, flaking, or another word is peeling, skin peeling, and also ulceration. These effects could appear either instantly or sometimes it takes time, depending on the chemical substances. All right, moving on to my third point, which is exposure to ingestion. Ingestion is generally defined as the act of taking in food or drink by swallowing. But of course, only an insane person would casually take a liquid chemical and swallow it, right? However, pertaining to my topic today, which claims the word exposure, how can we be exposed to chemicals through ingestion? It is actually the foods or drinks that you bring into the laboratory or into any working place where it could be contaminated through the unwashed hands or infected gloves or clothing. And some of the instant effects of chemical ingestion would be vomiting, diarrhea, or in a worst case scenario, if you accidentally being contaminated by arsenic compound, you could produce a dark black colored urine. Don't worry, I'm not going to show it. And also, for a very corrosive substance, it could lead to a severe abdominal pain because the chemicals are actually corroding your whole digestive tract. And also, actually, these symptoms might not be too bad unless if you eat or drink at a highly toxic place such as this Tianjin explosion site. This incident happened in 2015 where an abundant amount of ammonium nitrate detonated and it leaves sodium cyanide basking in the air. So if you happen to eat here or drink here, you might have increased your fatality rate to maybe 110%, I don't know. Alright, so to sum up my entire presentation, I would like to restate the 3 exposure pathways that I have discussed, which are inhalation, skin contact, and ingestion. Under inhalation, I have explained to you the types of inhalants, the 3 types, and also some of the instant symptoms. Under skin contact, I have shown you the conditions which enhance the exposure, and also the symptoms. And lastly is how a contaminated food can make you exposed to chemical in a bad way. So, my dear friends, knowing the symptoms or the pathways towards chemical exposure does not only prepare you to avoid the known negative impacts of being exposed to chemicals. However, more importantly, I actually want to share this because we as the future chemical engineers, we are going to conduct a lot more experiments which might produce or result in more and more unknown chemical compounds. So this topic, I hope it would help us to minimize the risk of being exposed to chemicals, of the unknown chemicals specifically. And one last advice from me is to always practice safety precautions, such as simply by wearing safety equipment or PPE. And for more information about PPE, you can go to Azizah. I guess that's all for my presentation today. I hope you all learned something from it. Thank you. Before that, do you have any questions? Alright, seems like my time is up. Thank you so much for your attention.